Welcome in, everyone. This is Out of Order. My name is Ben Mayer.
My name is Anthony Buono.
And on today's episode, we are going to be talking about the recent confrontation between Iran and Israel, where Iran sent over 300 drone/missiles in Israel's direction. This is in response to a strike that Israel made on Iran's consulate in Syria, where they killed 7 people, including one of the commanders of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. We talked about that first strike last week, on an episode last week, and we were worried about escalation.
Yeah.
We thought, like, if you don't start a war this way with an attack on another country's sovereign territory, how else do you do it?
Right.
But we haven't gotten a response yet. The latest today is that reports from the UK and other sources say that Israel has determined it will respond to Iran. But we just want to break down like what all of the different perspectives look like right now between Iran, Israel themselves, and the rest of the international environment, and kind of what we're hoping will happen.
I want to go into the strike on the Damascus consulate really quickly.
Sure.
Because the reason that Israel first hasn't claimed that they were responsible for the attack entirely.
True.
They're denying that they did it, but we all know they did it. Of these 7 commanders that were killed at the consulate, some of them, if not all of them, were suspected to be in cooperation with the October 7th attack.
Yes, I think they were actually meeting with leaders from Hamas.
Yes.
It came out later.
So that is where the strike came from. It wasn't like Israel randomly deciding to bomb the Iranian consulate one day. Want to give credit where it's due. That's not why they did it, right? Listen, it's still wrong. You can't bomb another nation's sovereign territory.
But then again, Iran has been having meetings with Hamas leadership over time. It's not completely random. There is some reason behind it, but it was also a very distinct choice.
Yes, it's a shift from previous policy, if that's where you want to go.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a shift from previous policy. It's an escalation. It's it's attack on sovereign territory.
Basically, what I'm saying is there's no reason that they weren't attacking these meetings before and then suddenly decided to do this now.
Okay.
Besides, I don't know, things we will talk about.
Sure.
Yeah. So the good news is that almost every single thing that Iran shot, every drone and missile that Iran shot at Israel was shot down by Israel's Iron Dome, as well as by allies in the region, including the U.S. and Jordan. And now the question is, like, what does everyone think? Why did Iran do this, first of all? Well, they needed to retaliate somehow, right? Its consulate is sovereign territory. The Israeli strike killed government figures. If Iran doesn't retaliate, then the message is Israel can attack with impunity, right? And there's no repercussions for that. But on the other hand, it still seemed like an incredibly half-assed attack. They didn't use their best missiles, so it seemed like they almost wished for them to be shot down. They telegraphed the move over 72 hours in advance, so every other country in the region knew about it, which of course also meant that Israel was going to know about it.
Of course.
And then immediately afterwards, they make a statement to the UN and they say they now deem this matter concluded. And that they say that despite the fact that it did almost no damage to Israel, it didn't kill anyone. And so
I
obviously
think one person's in critical condition.
Oh, I didn't know critical condition.
I think one person is in dire condition.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that one person got injured. But like that's the extent of what we're talking about.
99% of everything shot at Israel was shot down.
Yeah.
Right? Listen, Iran needed, like you said, they needed to do something.
Mm-hmm.
They can't just be like shown that they can just get bullied by anybody.
Yeah.
They need to show for their own sovereignty that they have the capacity to respond. It's also about the stability of the government, right? If
Yes.
like, you're this hard right government in Iran, if that government is no longer providing you with security or going through with these obligations that they have, then, they lose legitimacy.
Yes, totally. And one of the biggest uniting factors that Iran has is death to Israel, death to the U.S.
Yeah.
But what the weakness in the response makes it clear that Iran badly wants to avoid all-out war.
Oh yeah, this is the easiest and lightest attack they probably could have done.
Yes.
Right. And listen, it is an escalation, and I've read analyses from different analysts that are suggesting that this was a massive strategic mistake.
Yes,
The,
me too.
the decision to go from home v. home country, right? It's not Iranian proxies.
Yeah.
It's Iran itself attacking Israel itself. That was a huge mistake that Iran made, because they unnecessarily increased, they ratcheted up the tensions without getting anything for it.
Exactly. There's some idea that Israel, even though the consulate is sovereign Iranian territory, it's not Iran itself. So there's an idea that that's kind of a step below, and what Iran did in attacking Israel proper was a step higher. And yeah, the reason that is a huge mistake is because now Israel is like, okay, so we have to respond.
Yes.
We can't just let them take it a step higher. I do think it's strategically bad for that reason, but also for the rhetorical reason, the rhetorical battleground. Well, where Israel in the international community has been taking hits, right?
Yes.
They're totally on the defense because of how badly they've been treating civilians at Hamas or in Gaza. But now Iran is the bad guy, because Iran went and they did this big, even though not actually big, attack.
Well, because Israel was isolating itself with how it was conducting and is conducting its war in Gaza, right? The Western allies were starting to pull back so much of their support because they knew Israel was going over the line. But now, with this direct attack from Iran, they almost get a new lifeline of justification. Now they threw him Iran threw him a lifeboat here, and now Israel's going to be able to totally change the narrative. And now they're going to pretend to be the aggrieved party now, because they're going to be like, oh no, they were the last thing that did something bad to me. And it wasn't just equally bad to what I did. It was a little worse than what I did.
Yeah.
Right? So now Israel has justification. I don't view it as just justification, but they can have justification to do something even more extreme.
Exactly. They can spin it to say that it's okay, whatever escalatory action that they take next.
Yeah, and before we move on to Israel and what they think about this whole situation, I want to talk about one more avenue with Iran and how this impacts its nuclear weapons program. So since the Trump administration pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal that was negotiated in 2015 under Obama, Iran began to enrich uranium again. And some suggest that it's near bomb-grade quality, but not there yet. The International Atomic Energy Agency said that the Obama-era deal effectively kneecapped the entire nuclear program. And then after the deal was ripped up by the Trump administration, they started what's the word?
Rebuilding, basically?
Yeah,
They restarted it.
re-enriching the uranium.
Yeah.
Okay, so Iran completely denies it's attempting to build a nuclear weapon, but they also use language that is very, very important to look at. They keep saying that they need a deterrent against Israel. They keep using that word deterrent. Well, Israel's a nuclear-armed power. If you're trying to have deterrence with a nuclear-armed power, you also need nukes, right? And so now, since the attack is failed or possibly designed to fail, I think it was designed to fail. I think that's pretty clear.
Yes.
It was designed to fail. It was designed to be a stunt. But since the attacks were a failure, it could be used as a justification for them to arm themselves with more intense weapons like nuclear weapons, or place more sophisticated weapon systems closer to Israel. Maybe they put more sophisticated weapons into the arms of Hezbollah, into their Shia militia groups in Iraq that are closer to Israel. So they don't take 72 hours or they don't take 9 hours to get to Israel and give them that much time to respond.
Interesting.
Right? Iran now can use this as justification on their end to increase their military.
I suppose. I also think they have little reason not to improve. First of all, Iran, there have been articles that have come out recently that Iran's defense industry, its military industrial complex, has been evolving, has already been building up since Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal, because they have no reason not to. Basically, the deal with the nuclear deal was you don't develop nukes and we don't sanction the hell out of your economy. Now, the sanctions are back on, from the U.S. at least. There are still the other G7 or G5 countries
Whatever it is.
that are part of the deal. So those countries specifically aren't sanctioning Iran, but the U.S. is the most powerful one out of them. Since then, they've been building up drone capacity, and they've actually been supplying Russia with a lot of the drones they've been using in their war on Ukraine. So I do see how this can all feed into each other, and I would understand their efforts to re-enrich uranium and to build a bomb, especially if Israel retaliates again.
Yeah, no, listen, it's only going to drive them further and further down the nuclear rabbit hole. There's also been massive protests against the Iranian regime. In 2022, there were massive protests. People were killed, lynched, hung, and now those people, those political activists, are in the country of Iran begging Iran to not go to war, begging them to stop pushing it back against Israel, begging them to stop angering the United States.
Yes.
Because they don't want to do this. They want to join the larger Western liberal order. They don't want to be, well, that might be a little too strong, but they want to be a part of a democratic system that is open to global trade. They don't want to be isolated.
Yes.
They don't want war. And so it's frustrating that part of the Iran population too, which also is another reason why Ayatollah couldn't go full on against Israel for his own legitimacy. He had to do this middle road approach, right?
Yeah, I did get down a little bit of a rabbit hole on this. And the Iranian government has like 80% of the people disapprove.
Yeah.
The economies are in ruins. It's not even, I mean, it's worse than a developing country. They did have these protests and they cracked down hard to make sure that they went away. They probably haven't gone away. They've gone underground for now. But yeah, they don't want war. What war is going to do is cripple their economy even more. The worse they make life for the people, the less likely they are to keep control.
Absolutely.
But it's not as simple, I will just point out, as like wanting a Western government, because what happened in 1953 was the U.S. and the U.K. sponsored a coup and just installed basically the leader that they backed in Iran. And that you can draw a straight line to the 1979 revolution, which then overthrew that guy and installed this now heavily religious theocracy that Iran has.
It's funny because back before 53, before that coup, it was a social democratic government that was elected, that was nationalizing their oil system. And so when that coup happened in 53, it was in response to the nationalization of Iranian oil. And so, Britain and the United States installed the Shah, which is like this secular dictator type figure. And now we get an Islamic republic in response. So great job, guys.
Yes.
People just wanted to own their own resources, and you made the biggest enemy for yourself. So good job.
Yeah, and it was tied up with the Cold War too, and they thought they were falling.
They
too
thought
much
they were
going to
go to Stalin. Yeah.
So I want to move to Israel because I think the far right wing in Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition, they want a fierce response. Every single one was tweeting like, we have to show our strength right now. We have to deter them. And now we get the reports today that that's exactly what's going to happen. We don't know, of course, what their response is going to be. I hope they go easy.
I pray they go easy.
But I think they might want war. And this is not, I don't think it's entirely conspiracy, but it's also not entirely supported. My deduction here is that Netanyahu and everyone in his coalition is completely aware of the sentiment of their country that does not support their continued rule. They know that once an election comes up, they will not win. They'll be out of power. Netanyahu himself has trials. He's currently in, I think, at least two different court cases against him. And the best thing to prevent those from moving forward is him staying in power.
That sounds familiar.
The one thing that we know will put off an election is Israel continuing to be at war.
Right.
It will depend what we see in this response, but I think they want war.
I have an opposite opinion from Ben on this one. I don't think they want war. I don't. I am not convinced. I think they know that the United States will not follow them to war. Biden has made that perfectly clear.
Yes.
The Western powers have made it perfectly clear. Israel, if you go on offensive war, you're in it alone. America's not getting involved, as they shouldn't. Now, if that's going to be the case, I can't imagine they're so diluted to think that they could win a war against Iran or not be at war for a decade and kill their entire young population. I don't believe that they think that. I don't think that they want that. I think he definitely wants to seem like he wants to.
Okay.
He wants to seem like they'll do it. But I cannot picture him being ready to hit that button and go to war.
Okay.
What makes me nervous is that U.S. and Iran relations have gotten worse over time. In 2015, during the Obama administration, we had John Kerry and his counterpart, Mohammad Javad Zarif, have a very good relationship. And John Kerry and Zarif's relationship actually got the United States through important moments of crisis. There was a time where a United States naval vessel drifted into Iranian waters and the crew was seized by Iranians. And John Kerry calls up Zarif, and all the prisoners were released within a few hours. This open line of communication between the Western powers and Iran was important to get stuff like that done, but that line of communication is gone now. It doesn't exist. So even the United States trying to be a mediator between Israel and Iran, it's just not possible because we don't have the communication abilities anymore, which really makes me nervous.
Okay.
I'm just really worried that we're getting two tiny dogs that are yapping at each other, and eventually one's just going to bite and not realize what they just did. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's... I think we're going to accidentally work our way into a war here.
I think everyone does know what they're doing, though. Don't you? Like, to me, that's why... Part of the reason I think Israel wants war is why did they attack the consulate? Why did they attack the consulate?
I have no idea the answer to that question.
They did not need to do that.
I have no idea how to answer that question.
And they are coming near the end of their offensive in Gaza. And that offensive in Gaza has been what has kept Netanyahu just maintaining the attacks, I think, have kept him in power and have kept them from having an election for the past 6 months that's been going on. Now, I think they need to shift their focus because they're about to be done in Gaza. Maybe it won't be war with Iran. Maybe because of geography and feasibility, they'll go for Hezbollah.
Right.
To the north
which would
instead.
Also be a nightmare. I mean,
Yes.
that would be an absolute nightmare.
But I think it makes sense because this is my only explanation for why they attacked the consulate. Then we just have to talk about everyone else. Everyone else wants no war. Everyone else, like, please fucking stop it. Yes. All of Israel's allies have called Netanyahu and said, we don't want further escalation. Biden said, take the win.
And it's a win.
Yeah.
It's a win. Israel got 7 Quds commanders killed. Israel got 7 Quds commander killed. Iran injured 1 Israeli.
Yeah.
Take the trade, dude.
Yeah.
Take it, please. Just take it and go home. You won. You won this one, Israel. You won it. Just leave now.
Totally. But now Israel's gonna be like, no, we don't want to. Mostly people, they don't want war because no one wants to get their own military forces drawn in. Obviously, we still have troops in the region. We don't want further risk to those. But also the disruption to the global economy is particularly worrisome. One piece of news that happened just before the Iranian response that might have went under the radar for some people is that Iran seized a ship that was going through the Strait of Hormuz out of the Persian Gulf. And it really it led me to dig into this. A quarter of the oil that is shipped in the world every day goes through the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is kind of showing, look, we can shut that down if we want to in the case of a crisis. I can't imagine something that would precipitate that more than an Israel attack on Iran.
I totally agree.
Everyone's like, please don't do that. It would be terrible for the global economy. I do think the U.S. would be the most insulated country from it.
For sure.
I think we would pass some executive actions to lock down a lot of the oil that we export in this country.
Yeah.
But it would cause global inflation to spike.
Absolutely.
And nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Biden has ruled out passing any military aid packages through Congress that does not have that is solely Israeli military aid. Mike Johnson a few days ago, but we'll talk more about this. A few days ago, Mike Johnson floated the idea of passing a standalone Israeli aid bill. The Biden administration shut that down fast. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
It's the Taiwan, Ukraine, Israel stuff all in one or nothing at all.
Yep.
And I'm very glad that they did that because,
That is very good.
yeah, separating it between Israel and Ukraine would have put the Ukraine funding in danger of not passing. So I'm very glad that they're keeping it all consolidated. Yeah.
Cool.
Where do you think this goes from here? Do you think Israel attacks? Final thought?
Yeah.
You think they do?
Yeah. I don't think these reports are bullshit.
No, so you're saying that they do. When you say attack, I mean, do you think they hit Iranian homeland? Do you think they hit Hezbollah?
No. Okay, maybe Hezbollah. I think they do de-escalate. I don't think they hit Iranian homeland.
Okay.
And I think we're able to slowly back away from war.
Yeah.
At least with Iran itself. But I'm not 100% on that. I could see them hitting Hezbollah and then going to war there.
Yeah. That would be a nightmare.
Aggression strikes have increased. It's been heating up in Hezbollah. There was a recent report that the first Israeli troops were found inside Lebanon, like hundreds of meters past the border. So,
God damn it. Stop. Stop it, please.
Chill out.
Oh my God.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for watching this episode of Out of Order.
Crazy that you made it to the end.
If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe on YouTube and check us out on Patreon.
Yep. Link is in the description of our YouTube channel, and we're super poor, so we could use any support you can give.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys.